Okay, hey guys. So here we are, getting back into it again on this Thursday night. Jason should be joining us. I haven't heard any word from Eric or DJ Ricky, but I just might want to give them another nudge. Bear with me here for a second. So, yeah, tonight's title very simple: Welcome the Storm. Welcome the Storm. There is, so much stuff going on. Another explosion of an oil facility in Iran, for what it's worth. And the Houthis are being slowly pushed out of Yemen, and Hezbollah is slowly being pushed out of Lebanon. Meantime, Erdogan is doubling down on military deployment of Turkish troops in Syria. So it looks like Israel and Turkey are going to be going head to head soon. And I think I'd mentioned, and this bears some discussion, that the United Arab Emirates announced that it's completely cutting off all relations with Iran. Now, that is more significant than it appears for a couple reasons. The first is that a large chunk of, quote, international or regional trade occurs with UAE. So Iran's going to lose a lot of money if the UAE is good for its word on this. The second part is that the UAE is home to one of the largest concentrations of Iranian expatriates. Right? Like I said, we've got a large group in Los Angeles, large group in San Francisco, and guess what? There's a large group in the UAE on the order of over 400,000 Iranian expatriates. So you have trade relations plus a substantial community there. It's going to be interesting to see just what transpires under these conditions. And all this is happening while, that's right, we mentioned it before, the work on making these other pipelines that bypass Hormuz Strait continues. And they keep talking about what they're calling the stealth corridor. The stealth corridor. Okay, the stealth corridor, where oil tankers are slipping by the Iranians. Now, I have a couple theories on this. Nobody's really gotten into it. The first is that there were remnants of the Iranian Navy, aka the bug boats, and enough of those bug boats have been destroyed now that they are not a factor in the Persian Gulf. And then the second part is that we are able to jam and interfere with the surveillance and monitoring technology that the Iranians have been using, so they have no idea that these ships are going by with their oil. Meantime, of course, Iran says, oh, we control the straits. Nobody's allowed in or out. Yeah, right. Okay, well, boy, all I can say to the Iranians is keep talking like that. Yeah, all right. So, I mean, that's sort of a quick summary. I'm trying to decide, okay, because, I just want to throw something else in as a strange analysis or point of comparison. Russia has been pursuing this strategy where they are expanding out, attacking Poland, attacking Germany in small ways, but they're doing it. And occasional incursions into the Baltic states and other fun things. All right. Well, this is the same thing Iran is doing. Isn't that odd? So why would these two countries, very different circumstances, follow a similar strategy of pressuring, if you will, countries who are not the ones they're fighting directly? Why do they believe that there is something to gain by drawing others into the conflict? Well, the other part is if the others are able to figure this out, sorry, no, they're not playing. They're not playing. So this almost becomes, it's weird. It becomes like a sideshow. All right, 5 or 7. Okay, nature calls. Sure, Jason. Okay. And there's still a sense that more is coming. Now, when President Trump announced that these super economic sanctions against not only Iran but any country that's aiding Iran came out, a lot of people looked at that and said that is a serious shot over the bow. But will China and Russia take it seriously? I don't know. There's it's, all right, we're not privy, unfortunately, to the methods that they have. I mean, kicking them out of the international settlement system called SWIFT might have been one thing, but that there's more. Okay, we'd like to know what that more is. Yeah, I'm sorry, I gotta get, damn, you guys, come on here. All right, I'll let him know, right? These people, I mean, I tried to get their attention and they don't listen. What is the matter with them? What is the matter with them? We'll see. I know Eric had other things going on tonight, so we'll see. He probably won't be joining us, although I wish he would. Okay, so that's taken care of. The thing that I look in my conversations in the last couple of days, when I talk with Jason, when I talk with Eric, it's the same thing. We need to focus on Connecticut. So I've got up the stuff from Connecticut Sentinel for openers, and there are some noteworthy developments. And I got to give a shout out to Reese Hopkins, because it just seems like he's going from strength to strength in what he does with the show and how he promotes it. And I just, good job there, Reese. So, and we need more people doing things like that. Meantime, the other radio personality, Lee Elsey, is running for state representative. I guess there comes a point in the time of everybody who has cultivated themselves as a conservative personality or media individual in Connecticut has to approach the question of running for office. Well, I did run for the local board of education, lost. Who knows? Somebody might ask me to try something else. I'm getting a little old, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. So Lee Elsey was able to raise a record amount of money in 36 hours so he can get state funding. So, to his credit, and a few others, candidates I'm aware of, they've managed to raise the vaunted state money. We're put in a funny position because as Republicans and conservatives, we don't believe in state assistance. But the reality is that when you sit down and try to get people to give you money, wow, talk about pulling teeth. Oy. So just to give you a contrast, so today or these days, you get around $35,000, $40,000 for a state representative campaign. Guy I was helping at the time, the best we could do was raise $4,000. So just that, what should I say, Republicans and conservatives don't understand that money is the mother's milk of politics, right? As the old saying goes, from Tip O'Neill. And it's true. And so you're forced to you got to decide, what are you going to do? And, this raises the other question. The donor network that we need to have working in this state for Republicans needs to function much more effectively. There are a few well-known rich donors, but there need to be more. And there are more people that really need to step up for the Republican candidates. Yeah, what's the latest here? I just saw a little mention. I'll just share it with you quickly. Connecticut ranked the second worst financially distressed state in America. I'm pretty sure number one would be Illinois. But I'll read the article later. And we find ourselves, in any event, when you look at the article titles on Connecticut Sentinel, it just reinforces the fact that, yes, politically, for Republicans and conservatives, Connecticut remains a black hole, all right? But for some reason, the point still applies. those in our community still treat politics as a hobby and not as a profession. And we're not going to make any serious progress until that changes. And the first place that it needs to change, surprise, surprise, is groundwork. Got to have a ground game. And a ground game simply means knocking on doors. Now, there's some thinking through to do in order to be as effective as you can with knocking on doors, but we hardly do it at all. The fact of the matter is that with the Democrats, because you support unions, you have a built-in workforce that you're ready to send out into the neighborhoods to knock on doors. We don't have that. Ours, unfortunately, is a much more difficult path and one that probably produces, well, less satisfying results, just saying. So somewhere this has to be rethought. Somewhere a different form of organization, different rules, different something where people work together has to be created for the Republican Party in this state if we're going to make any progress. Now, I've talked before about Project Red Hawk. I guess I could bring it up again. So Project Red Hawk is very simple. It is about building the grassroots side of the Republican Party. And I can tell you when you actually get down to it, because what is grassroots? It's talking to people one at a time, all right? And then having a lot of local groups. But these local groups somehow need to talk to each other, which doesn't happen. So there's a bit of a challenge there. So for whoever takes on the main part of the challenge, that would be me, you're confronted with time-consuming efforts to reach out to a lot of people, many of whom may be the wrong person to contact because they're not like-minded enough, they're not concerned enough, they're not willing to make the sacrifices that are needed in order to do what needs to be done. And believe me, a lot needs to be done. And let me give you a counterexample. See, there are these two elements, and they don't necessarily have to have anything to do with each other. And I'm going to use the Democrat Socialists of America as the shining example here. Okay, you, me, if we sat down and looked at what the Democrat Socialists are all about, we would be horrified. They want to destroy the Constitution. They want to destroy our form of government, and they say it with a smile on their face. And nobody seems to be concerned. Getting rid of the Electoral College is the least of it. And the problem here is, moreover, that they don't tell you what they want to replace it with. All right, Mr. Big Picture.
We are here.
Picture, yeah.
And about to go live on Facebook.
Okay, go
in
for
one
it.
piece.
All right.
Right after I got off the phone with you a little while ago, I almost got killed by a guy cut me off on a highway.
Oh.
It was a lot of fun.
Well,
but I came through unscathed. Okay. Through one, and we are live. Welcome everybody to Common Sense News Entertainment. Another edition of the awesome show with Yankee T News, Koronowski, and myself here on this beautiful Thursday, August the 20th. And here we are. What is on the agenda tonight?
Well, welcome the storm. But I just was running through the latest developments with Iran. I got through that. Now I'm on to Connecticut and the things we've been talking about Connecticut.
Good.
So,
and can we talk about the divide, the absolute schismatic divide in the Republican Party in Connecticut between which my friend Jenny calls the political pundits, meaning committee members and people involved in the party, and regular Republican voters?
Okay.
The chasmic rift between those two entities is just astronomical, in my opinion.
You remember George?
Polar opposites.
Okay, remember George Carlin's comment about you're not in the club?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
a little bit. I love George Carlin.
Yes. Well, that's what you got here.
The late George.
People, I mean, let me just point out that it is the DNA of politics, all right, is group identity, separating yourself from others. This is mine, that's yours. We're going to have control. You're not, okay? that is the nature of politics. And so even when you have,
isn't it the nature of society in general? Maybe even.
well, it sure, social relations. I mean, also, the way people relate to each other breaks along economic lines. The rich hang out with the rich; they don't hang out with the poor.
Generally, that's true.
All right, so you've got those kinds of I don't know, if you want to call them natural affiliations. So that's
funny. Even though that is true, I haven't found that in my personal experience, though. I have friends that are rich and friends that are poor, I guess.
All right. Well, it's generally observed. But any billionaire friends?
No. Or we'd have a much more up and running common sense news entertainment news network if we had a billionaire friend going around.
It would seem, yes.
I think I know a millionaire though. Our attorney, who by the way has disappeared.
Yes.
For nearly a month now.
Have you tried to reach out to him?
More than once.
All right. Well, I'll reach out to him as well then.
Okay. Let's see if we can bring him back to the surface.
Give that boy a kick in the butt. But yes, the schismatic thing you're referring to is real. It seems like there's another element to it.
Well, the other element is the disingenuous nature of the leadership is really the other element. It's not
sure, yeah. I mean, all right, but
how lost on many rank and file Republicans.
Okay, there are those who have what I will call, I'm going to call this what it is, a romantic sense of what it means to be a Republican. They're true believers. They're in there. They've been in there. All right. And as such, their support for the Republican Party tends to be, well, unquestioning, unwavering.
Yeah, because we're going to support the Democrats. I mean, you know what I mean? That's elephant in the room here. It's kind of stuck.
They are thoroughly sold on partisan thinking, and that's okay for me. I'm not going to argue with them about that. But it creates this sort of boxed-in mindset that doesn't take the time or trouble to look around the room and try to understand everything else that's going on, other than it doesn't fit with my group, right? And I'll tell you, when I was in Greenwich, I certainly saw a number of these people, and it was distressing. But they don't just live in Greenwich. In fact, if you've learned to recognize these types of Republicans, you saw plenty of them at the convention back in May. Right? So that's a
rhino.
No, they're not necessarily rhinos per se. They maybe, but they
wouldn't call themselves rhinos.
No.
And they may, some of them maybe even have some kind of conservative principles going on in their head somewhere, but it's just not manifesting itself in the correct policies.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen.
They're trusting. I think there's a lot of like committee members and RTC members that might just be a little too trusting, or just have that little sort of leadership. Like they look at the chairman and the leadership and they say, "Oh, well, these guys must be the right people. They're the leaders," and they just kind of make that sort of sheep-like assumption. And a lot of them, if they really knew what was going on, might turn. That's the thing that's frustrating.
Okay, so those are two related types now that we've just described. There's this curious other creature. I'm never quite sure what to think. I'm thinking of this woman that I knew early in the days of the Tea Party. Black hair, very nice and everything. But when she was put under pressure, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, as is often said of Republicans, she folded like a cheap camera. And the problem in her case was that she was an example of somebody who was not thinking for herself. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable in saying that I've spent my time in politics sorting out my views, being clear. So I don't try to just understand politics. I try to understand what I'll call the culture of politics, the different kinds of people that populate it, the different personalities that you see, and their different takes on being a part of the same party. The big obvious split is between rhinos and conservatives, but as I'm trying to lay out here, you're pointing out, there are these other types. And it's disturbing because if we expect to win anything, it's about, I'm going to say it, unity. All right. So it's the nature of the unity that we have to talk about.
Right. And it's unity under what conditions?
Okay. Unity recognizing that you need to get as many votes for you, 50% plus one, and not so many for the others. So your job is to go out and to persuade people. Now, the problem is, I believe that a lot of the Republicans have also become really bad. Oh my God, have they become bad at messaging? Oof.
Well, they have, but okay, I guess this is what it gets to. Like, I'm going to give you a little analogy. If someone had come along and let's take the movie The Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
As soon as that Wicked Witch melted, what did the monkeys do?
Oh, they were overjoyed.
Thank you, Dorothy, right? They're all so I think there's a little bit of this is a top-heavy, corrupt Republican Party. If we can somehow lop off the
Are
witches.
you suggesting that Ben Proto is the Wicked Witch of the West?
I think he's one of them. Well, we have a series of Wicked Witches, but yeah, he's essentially the head of the beast that runs the monkeys, that like guys like Chris Shea or whatever that he puts out there. Like I feel honestly, I don't think Chris Shea himself feels like a corrupt person. He probably thinks he's doing the right thing. But then when he has the chairman of the Republican Party come up to him, put his arm on him, say, "Hey, I'm going to fund you and set you up and get you into Congress." And he's going to go, "Okay." And so I just think that
okay. All right, let me just
an example of one of those people. Chris Shea himself.
Eli did it again.
Chris Shea himself may be an example of a guy of a monk. Chris Shea is one of the Wicked Witch monkeys. If you could actually kill off the witch and say to Chris, "What's going on?" Chris would go, "Oh man, okay."
I see. So if you were to pick that scene where she was about to have the water thrown on her, one of the monkeys standing in the room there would have been Chris Shea. Okay, just a thought.
And Marianne Turner.
Oh, geez.
Tanya, Jeff Rogers, and the list goes on. These are all the monkeys. Now, some of them are in cahoots with the Wicked Witch and won't change, but the majority of them, I think, like, let's say, for example, I had won. Let's just say for some miraculous reason, I had won the chairmanship last June, right? And I'd become the chairman. Let's say that somehow it happened, right? I would have gone there and said, "This is how we're going to do things." And most of those monkeys would have gone, "All right."
Well, no, they would simply follow the leader.
There'd be right. That's what I'm talking about. Follow the leader. Now, there would be that small group around Ben, the closest to Ben, that would be looking to undermine me, of course,
All right.
So we're dealing with,
Yeah, I need to respond to Eli here, who just checked in. 2 comments. Can you explain to me why Iran is relevant to the source matter when Israel truly looks to be, brother? Well, it's a small thing.
Israel
here we go again. All right. Eli, I need to remind you of the first simple fact. The population of Iran is
90 million, right?
92 million, around there. And the population of Israel is,
I don't know, I'm going to guess about 20, maybe 15.
No, 10, 12, something like that.
Like metropolitan New York.
Yeah. Okay. One country is bigger than another. And how much oil is Iran supplying to the world? Fair bit, I'd say. How much oil is Israel supplying to the world? Not so much, I'd say. Okay.
Which country is calling for death publicly of the other one?
Yeah, let me think about that too. Yeah. Okay, so he's trying to, I think what Eli's getting at.
You're not going to get me or court to demonize Israel on this show in an unfair way.
All right. So, I think where Eli's trying to get to is that the undue and overweight political influence of Israel on American politics has caused people to say, "Oh, America's just a puppet of Israel." No, it doesn't work that way. Okay?
If that was true, we would have been carpet bombing Iran by now.
Right.
Believe me, Israel would like to. If Israel had its way, like everybody says it was, I think you'd see nuclear weapons going off in Iran by now.
Okay. See,
Harry Truman knew what to do.
All right. But I'm not going to. Maybe we can dwell on it later. But no, I think that Iran is the problem.
Yes.
Changing.
Sometimes things, not everything is the opposite of what it seems. Some things are actually what they seem.
All right, and so let me just flip his comment around. He's suggesting that we should be, by focusing on Israel, we should ignore Iran with all that's going on right now. It doesn't make any
I
sense.
think we talk about Israel as well when it's relevant.
Yes, right.
And look,
No,
I'm
there's
not
a lot to talk about.
denying for all these Israel haters out there. I'm not denying that Israel would love to do much more damage to Iran than they're being allowed to do.
Let's see. What is this? We don't. I guess that was a reference to last night. We don't need to institute a certain religion, boss man. So that was last night because Eric spent a lot of time talking about. Well, it didn't put the label on, but the label is he was talking about the Christian Science perspective on Christianity. And the most striking part of it is that Eric, and in turn Christian Science, does not believe in the second coming of Christ. They believe the second coming happened some time ago.
Oh yeah, when was this that it happened some time ago?
Well, that part's a little unclear, but the argument is, I mean,
Maybe
part
it
of
was
it
Charlemagne.
okay, one of the things to understand here, which is what kind of makes Christian Science in some people's minds sort of a cult status thing, and Eric touched on it, but he didn't flesh it out, is that Mary Baker Eddy, who is the founder of Christian Science, had also argued and persuaded a number of people that she was that certain woman wearing the tiara with the 12 stars in the book of Revelation. That was her. Okay, kind of a cult thing. I think we could say that.
Or
okay. But that's
based on the interpretation of one book of the Bible.
Well, believe me, Mary Baker Eddy put a lot of time and effort into thinking a lot of stuff through. She was not what you would call an intellectual lightweight by any means. But to arrive at a conclusion like this would strike some people as unusual, all right? And it would help to explain why she's not considered part of the mainstream. Eric will tell you there's some guy named John Darby, I think, who is responsible for promoting the idea of the second coming of Christ. However, I seem to remember that from the book of Matthew, Jesus spoke that there will be, that he would be coming back and that there would be wars and rumors of war, and other strife preceding his return. I think that was in Matthew. I'll have to check my facts. Anyway, so Eric was carrying on, and Eli was, doing his best to understand where Eric was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. In any event,
well, my thought is that my understanding is that God generally grants free will, and if that's the case, then he's sort of out of the game, and it's up to us to fix the problem.
Well, it gets a little confusing because in the Old Testament, and when the Pharaoh was chasing the Hebrews, there's a part where it said that God hardened the heart of the Pharaoh. That's not exactly free will.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of things in the Torah, especially where there's no free. Clearly, there's divine intervention.
Wait, Eli, what are you talking about? He says, I was saying it in regards to Jason's song, in regards to instituting Islam. Do you know what he's talking about?
Something about, I did do a thing about, it's not about the money. We don't need your money. We just want to institute the jihad and
I see.
take over with Islam.
Okay.
Remember that? I don't have my ukulele right now.
Now it's suddenly funnier. Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, that was to make my point with Eric that it's not about the money is a means for the truly powerful people in the world. Mm-hmm. They know that money is something. They print the money, for God's sake. It's just a means to an end. It's not the money. It's the influence. It's the power. It's the control over the natural resources of the earth, which are oil, air, water, wood, still, and other things that are needed to survive. Not even gold. I'm talking about the actual natural resources of the world. Mm-hmm. Rare earth minerals, which are now huge. So those are the things that matter, and those are the things that it's going to be motivated by. And let's not underestimate the theological aspect of this.
What? How did you get from money to are we talking about theology of money?
By their God. Hmm? Is there Allah that wants to make everybody into? We talked about this earlier with Selena about the Quran. If you read I've read most of the Quran, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. And the first part of the Quran, we talked about this earlier today, is a little bit more. If you read the language in the early parts of the Quran, it's a little more diplomatic.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to do that to get the in. And then later on in the Quran, the stuff they wrote later when they started conquering countries and whatnot, that's when you get all this whip your kid if they don't memorize these verses by age 10. And the stories of women and children being beaten to death, not to death, but beaten to within an inch of their lives just for not memorizing passages of the Quran.
Yes.
This is a widespread thing that goes on.
Well,
And it's just, I guess I'm getting a little off kilter here, but the point is, we got to start dealing with this as for what it is. And I do not recognize Islam as a religion. I think it's a dangerous cult, is what it is, in my opinion. And I had a guy who I know pretty well the other day. I thought he was pretty smart. He starts arguing with me, and he says, "You know that Islam is the oldest religion in the world." And I said, "Are you kidding me? Man, I thought you were smarter than that." People don't know how to follow history now.
Well,
Islam is a relatively new religion.
All right. Well, then he would be arguing that Christianity is not a religion, and he'd be arguing that
he's not arguing whether it's religion or not. No, he was arguing about the age. He was saying Islam is the oldest religion in the world, which is definitely not true.
No, it's not.
No, it's one of the newer ones, actually. It came around 800 AD.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's hundreds of years after Christianity and thousands of years after Judaism. So know your history, people. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest problems we have in politics and in this country in general is people do not understand history. They don't get what it's like, communism is like. They don't get, the ways of the ancient world, how brutal it was. Guys like Genghis Khan come and wipe out a quarter of the population. We don't have things like that these days. You know what? There's one thing we can thank for it too. I think there's one reason in the world that we can thank now for why we don't have the kind of mayhem and conquering that we have, and that is the invention of the nuclear weapon.
Oh, really?
The invention of the nuclear weapon, as horrible as it was, did create a sense of peace through strength. So guys like Vladimir Putin know not to go in and bomb the hell out of New York or Boston, because it means they're gonna. The idea of mutually assured destruction has deterred some of the most heinous conquest ambitions in this world, I think.
Give me some examples.
Well, I can't give you an example because it's about the things that haven't happened.
Well,
not what has happened, what hasn't. The idea that if there were no nuclear weapons, it would just make sense for us to go in and bomb Moscow and just take these people out. But we're not going to do it because if we do that to them, they're going to nuke, they're going to destroy us. So it's this idea of peace through strength. It's actually a sort of a draconian form of peace through strength, the existence of nuclear weapons in general. Anyway, I'm getting off the topic, but the point is, the world is at a crossroads. Oh, and I want to tell you guys about my cartoon. Remember I said we need a cartoonist?
Yeah, right, yes. But AI can do it. Generative AI can make cartoons.
Oh, good, because I want to make a little cheap cartoon, which is going to start off with a big orb, the planet Earth. And you got to see that Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere closely on each side. And then in the beginning, you'll just see nothing really in the West, just maybe some Indians. And on the East, you're going to see Spanish Inquisition, a bunch of rich elitists and crowns and kings, and then a bunch of people suffering.
Spanish Inquisition would have been in the West.
Well, it's the Eastern Hemisphere, right? Yes. Spanish Inquisition happened in Europe, Court. That is the
Europe is part of the West.
But it's the Eastern Hemisphere.
And it's not the Eastern Hemisphere.
Yes, it is.
Asia's the Eastern Hemisphere.
No, you're wrong.
Yes. Or if it's not, or then what is Asia?
The Western, I'm talking about geography now, not politics.
Yes. You said hemisphere.
Western Hemisphere is North and South America, period. The Eastern Hemisphere is the rest of it. The Greenwich Meridian line at the west divides the world. The international date line.
Mr. Mensa, your geography is pretty weak here.
Whoa. Time out. The Greenwich Meridian zone in the western part of England is the demarcation line.
Yes.
And then on the other side is the international date line.
Yes.
Those two lines take all of Europe, Asia, and Africa. That is the Eastern Hemisphere of the planet. If you take the planet Earth from outer space and you cut it in half, you're going to have all that crap on the east. Australia, you're going to have 4 continents on the east. You're going to have 2 continents on the west. And then you're going to have Antarctica in the middle. That's it.
Okay, what I will call astronomical divisions are not the same as political divisions.
Right, but I'm talking about astronomical divisions right now. Okay.
Very confusing.
No,
Okay.
it's not confusing at all. My cartoon is going to show the Eastern We're talking about my cartoon here now.
All right. You know what? I say pursue it and test, get an audience test, and see if people get it or not.
Let me explain it. Can I finish explaining it, please? It's going to be a reel in history. It's going to start off with Indians in the West, and in the East, you're going to have kings, lords, fiefdoms, where the way it always was, Court, where you either were very rich and noble and had everything you want and lived to be 80 years old, or you starved and suffered and served like a serf or a vassal or a slave, right? That's what the West, isn't that what the Eastern Hemisphere was like before America? Before the discovery and the development of the United States.
Remember, remember that when we were being settled, some of those things were being practiced here.
Bernie Sanders and all his dumb followers sit and disparage the disparity between the rich and the poor, right?
Yeah.
Well, what was the world all about before the United States came along? The worst disparity between the rich and the poor ever. You're either a lord, a fiefdom leader, or a nobility member, or you were a peasant. There was no middle class per se. Cartoon would depict this difference.
No, some people are going to have issues with this because you're lumping together what was a middle period, which is the vassal state.
No, I'm not.
With the modern, yes, there was something before vassals. Just want to let you know.
Do you think there was a free world before the United States came along? Yes or no?
A free world. You're talking about forms of vassal is a word. It means something. Okay, it has a historical
You're not even grasping anything I'm telling you. I'm trying to give you.
I grasp it, and I'm telling you it's wrong.
It's not wrong. My cartoon is going to give us a history lesson. So there was. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Was there a free world before the United States came along? Yes or no?
The free world we're talking about? Of course not.
Of course not. So that's what my cartoon is all about. It's going to give a depiction of time of how the world was not free in the East and how you're either rich or poor. Okay, there was no middle class. Do you agree with me that there was no strong middle class per se in the rest of the world before the Protestant Reformation and the start of America and the philosophies of guys like John Locke that started this country? Before that, it was all
the Industrial Revolution is what you're talking about. The Industrial Revolution.
I'm talking about the founding of the United States of America as a free country. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, and the middle class is not part of that?
You gotta let me explain my cartoon. My cartoon is basically going to be, it's going to show how it's going to roll through time. It's going to show how there was no hope for regular people, basically, in the Eastern Hemisphere, and then it's going to show little boats going across and discovering America, and then it's going to show a little rah-rah, how we kind of like fought off the tyranny. We created this free country, and then the cartoon will depict things like movie theaters and candy aisles and all these wonderful things that are free. And you're going to see all the free over here. Listen to me finish. And over here, you're going to see those old kings like frowning at it. And then you're going to see these other boats with little snaky little guys coming over and start corrupting it from the inside, right? And the cartoon will basically depict this whole thing in a reel of about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe. That's it. Depicting this sequence of time, showing all this oppression and all these things over here, and then the discovery, and then and all the good things that came over here. And then you're going to see the people frown, like the leaders. You're going to see over here the peasants that were suffering, looking over with hope, while the kings and queens and elitists over there are shooting bullets over at us. And then more boats with Muslims coming over here and bad like Khrushchev, and sending his people over here. And then you see the corruption start. And then at the end, there's going to be a narrative that shows, how our country, the founding of our country, was the first and only time, honestly, in the history of the world, where there was a systematic thing where people had a chance to do whatever they wanted with their lives and advance to whatever level they're able to advance, called capitalism. Capitalism is new. It only started with the Protestant Reformation, and it manifested itself here. And so my cartoon is going to show that, and it's going to show how what I've been explaining for years. I did an article on X, but I think doing it in a cartoon form would really get through to people who follow Bernie Sanders, who think that somehow this disparity between the rich and the poor is so horrible in America. Well, guess what? It's not anything as bad like it was over there for all those years and like it is now.
You're trying to tell a 10-page story in one picture.
Right. And 4-minute cartoon. Yeah. I'm going to
Wait,
do the cartoon.
wait. Okay, you're talking about an animated cartoon.
Yes, a video animated cartoon of about 3 or 4 minutes long that will show basically it's a time reel. It's a speed up of history.
So there was
all Rome and lead up to now.
All right. I got interested in a video that explained the history of, hold on to your hat, the lathe.
Okay.
The Industrial Revolution did not start until we solved some critical problems with the lathe.
Yeah, I think the lathe allowed us to make furniture a lot quicker than we ever could have before. Is that correct?
But also for metalworking.
And for metal, yeah.
So in the video, the point was made.
Cotton gin, same thing.
That before the lathe, we're talking thousands of years now, the average income of most people was $400, the equivalent of $400 a year, year in and year out, because nothing was advancing, nothing was growing, nothing was improving. It was the same routine over and over again. Okay. And it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution that people began to earn more money, and you had something called a middle class created as a result.
But without the freedom to innovate and create a capitalist free market, the Industrial Revolution could have never happened.
Well, but the problem is that capitalism was happening in your East, as you described it.
Capitalism was not really happening at the scale that it happens in this country.
What scale? I mean, scale is a relative concept.
Well, there's a book I read called. There's a book that I read called "Capitalism and the Protestant Reformation."
Sure.
So the Protestant Reformation gave rise to capitalism, but the system for it wasn't there.
Okay.
The system for it was born here.
I'm not sure what you mean by system, because
a government by the people, where it's dictated in the Constitution that you're not allowed to interfere in these commerces and these businesses. That's was put on paper. We didn't have any of that in Europe. It began in practice in Europe.
That's just not true.
Well, it began in practice in Europe, but there's no documents like the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution that happened in Europe before 1776, unless you want to go with the Magna Carta, which really just all that did was limit the powers of the king.
Okay.
And so that set the stage for capitalism. I'm not denying it wasn't any capitalism, but the kind of system, the government here was built for capitalism. It wasn't built for capitalism in Europe.
Yeah. Okay. So it's called Trade Archive. It's a YouTube channel called Trade Archive. And it goes back in time and picks critical moments in the evolution of manufacturing technology.
Sure.
And widespread poverty, the existence of a vassal, preceded the development of industrial technology. And nothing changed until we began to create industrial technology. Where was this being done? It was being done in France. It was being done in Switzerland. Okay. And I think some Netherlands. It was being done in England.
Sure.
So this whole East-West thing, the way you're setting it up and saying capitalism was purely a creation of the West.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Why are you putting words in my mouth?
Sure sounds like it.
I even just told you a minute ago.
Talk about capitalism and Reformation.
Yes, in Europe. So I get that.
Okay.
All right, I get that.
Okay, but then you sit here and tell me, that Europe is in the East.
Europe is located in the Eastern Hemisphere, Court. That's where it is. I know it's part of the Western world. Western civilization is a political term, okay?
Yes.
But Europe is in the Eastern Hemisphere, sir. Okay, it's located in the eastern half of the world. That's all I'm telling you, okay? The East is in terms of the Eastern Hemisphere.
Well, my answer is I await the rough
Monroe Doctrine is about the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was to protect the Western Hemisphere. It wasn't meant for Europe. It was meant for the Western Hemisphere, of which Europe is not a part of. Europe is part of the Eastern Hemisphere. It's part of our Western culture. Yeah, at least it was. Lately, it's been slipping away, but that was part of our Western culture, of course. Western civilization was born in Greece, which is in Asia. Well, Europe, technically Europe, but Western civilization was born in places like Egypt, which is in Africa. So I get that, but it's Western cult, Western civ does encompass Europe and parts of Asia and Africa as well. But I'm talking about the Eastern Hemisphere right now when I'm speaking in these terms.
All right. Well, generative AI will help produce. Wait, that's interesting. Let me just check that. Can generative AI create an animated cartoon?
Do you remember the old video of No More Kings? That these women in the cities have ruined it now. But No More Kings used to be a little Schoolhouse Rock cartoon where they described the Revolutionary War in a little cartoon form. I don't know if you've ever seen the video or not. Have you ever seen that video, Court?
What's it called again?
It's called No More Kings, actually. And it was done by Schoolhouse Rock in the 60s and 70s. They used to play for kids, other cartoons like it, on Saturday mornings. And when you get a chance, check out the Schoolhouse Rock No More Kings cartoon. And that's the kind of cartoon I want to do. Only to be a little bit more, it will just have the Earth on it, big version of the Earth on it the entire time, though. And it would go through a series of history and explain. Basically, the point of it would be to demonstrate to people in a video way of how really awful the world really was until, look, you're right. The Industrial Revolution gave rise to a middle class, but what gave rise to the Industrial Revolution was freedom and self-determination government and government's renaissance, I guess, too, standing out of the way and letting people do what they want to do. And so while there was episodes of manufacturing and industrial revolution in Europe, that's true. Europe was never allowed to become the superpower that it became. Their political power, as their industrial power increased, their political power diminished. Countries like Spain and France and England all weakened, while the United States continued to grow stronger. The United States had a government set up for the system of capitalism and the system of self-determination and the middle class. Whereas Europe, while it had that industrial spirit during those years, didn't have the type of systematic backing for it that gave it a chance for Europe to become this great industrial power. It never did. We did. And
Europe never became a great industrial power.
Since the United States has been born, no. Europe has never become a world industrial power. No. Europe has consistently weakened.
Dude, you got to go check Germany.
Yes, there are exceptions. I'm talking about generally speaking.
That's a pretty big exception.
Yes. Germany was an evil state. So, yeah, of course.
And Switzerland.
Do you give the United States any credit at all for the rise of the middle class or no?
Most powerful manufacturing powerhouse in the world, yes.
Yes,
but you have to recognize that other countries have got their chops when it comes to engineering. Okay,
and there's no doubt we're not the only ones. Well, if it wasn't
Switzerland, for example, makes the biggest, most powerful textile looms in the world. They've been the industrial leader on this since forever. Tiny little Switzerland. A licensing executive came back, and I was in a talk, and the guy said, I just got back from Switzerland. I got to tell you, those guys are deep in technology.
I'm not denying any of that.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like you want to give the United States any credit at all.
That's nonsense.
Well, I know it's not true, but it's what it sounds like.
No, I think you're not, and you're giving no credit. I mean, you're thinking that these other countries are like they're still living in the Stone Age.
Yeah, there's still no. I didn't say that. I never said that.
Okay.
I started the whole conversation by telling you how Europe was
Switzerland and Germany as leading examples. Sweden is another one. These countries and Japan make world-beating technology. All right, we're not the only ones.
I'm not denying any of that.
There's competition.
But did I say that they were? Did I say anything otherwise?
Sure sounded like, well, it's like, or we're accusing each other of implying.
Do you think Japan would be what it is today if the United States had never come along? Hell no. They'd be still under the shogun. They'd still be doing the same crap they did for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
And do you think Europe, if let's say the United States had never come along, do you think Europe would have become the United States? No. Any means of production that Europe did was seized by the kings and the lords of those countries. And they would have never become what we become. We paved the way.
All right. In the case of England, yes, everything was subject to the crown, of course.
Of course.
Okay, but a private sector had emerged, okay, in these European countries.
That's true.
Okay,
but once we won our independence, what happened in Europe? We became a major fad. Every country wanted to be like us. France had its revolution just 13 years after ours. There's a reason for that.
Good talk.
Revolutions all over Europe. The rest of Europe wanted to be just like us.
Mm-hmm.
If you read stories about what Europeans were saying in the late 18th century about Americans, they thought we were like from other planets. Like these Americans, they go through the woods, they dig for things, they build their own houses. These people are crazy. Read about what they say. We were like completely wild to them. Like the people that are free to do what they want. They can move wherever they want. They can decide what they want to do with their lives. Like they thought it was like we had found another planet. And that's what they wrote. And then we became the fat over there. And it was with our piggyback that Europe began to do more than what they did before. Japan would never be what it was if we hadn't been in the United States. If we hadn't bombed them, do what we did, they would never be what they are today. We're the leaders of the free world.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that because
it's always a little more complicated.
Okay, because you got to remember that Japan had a long-running relationship with Britain.
But Japan was also living under Shogun Kamikaze rule. Well, actually, the Shogun died in 1867, quite frankly. That was the end of the Shogun rule.
Mm-hmm.
They were still under the samurai. They were still under, they still thought their emperor was a god. They're very much like Iran in the sense that they were very very spiritually and theologically driven. And we're not going to back down to anything, really.
Yeah, well, I think you're understating the role that Britain had in this as compared to the United States.
What, with Japan?
And China.
Mm-hmm. Well, with China, certainly.
Yeah.
China got boxed around by the Dutch, the British, the French, and the United States for a couple of hundred years.
Right. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time arguing about the wrong things here. We're supposed to be arguing about Connecticut.
Yeah. Right. Well, Connecticut is, what is the argument in Connecticut? Is the Republican Party salvageable, or does it need to be broken before it gets fixed?
All right. Again, I'm still sticking with my plan, Project Red Hawk.
Yeah.
I sent you that email. Did you get a chance to read it?
I checked it out. Yeah, I actually signed that for CTRA last year, I think.
No. It was different. It's something else that I sent you.
Oh, well, if you sent it to me tonight, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, it is. Let's see if we can find it. On. How about where Darth Vader testified on the flock campus?
I saw the headline of that. Yeah,
it's pretty funny. Okay, but anyway, so the title is More on Project Red Hawk, and so this is where I spell out in more detail. I talk about the rules of Project Red Hawk, about methods of influence. Okay. All these different things that we need to do, which I think ends up just being an extension of the point that I had made in that talk. Okay, those 4 circles that I drew on that whiteboard really is a point of reference in this discussion. But anyway, so why Project Red Hawk? That's waiting for you when you get a chance to read it.
Okay.
And so part 1 is the list of people, but now, so if I talk to somebody about this and explain it, well, what do I have? The question they have is, what do I have to do? Well, I have some rules for you. I have some guidelines for you. Okay. I have some things that need to be done. It's I think it's me just kind of spewing a lot of stuff, and I probably have to go back and tighten it up a lot. Mm-hmm. But the point is that there is a definite plan of action. And here we have these 20 people. So I'll tell you, the other thing I've started to do was why I asked you about Facebook is, what was it? If I go, I don't find this if I go to Facebook on my PC, but if I go to Facebook on my cell phone, I get a certain thing on my oh, darn it, I goofed that up. Sorry, Eric. Yes, so here it's called people you may know. Yeah, people you may know.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens then is they put up these pictures from other people's Facebook pages. So Marie official, one mutual friend. Do I want to add her as a friend? Yes or no?
I
Some
get
guy.
those all the time.
What?
I get a lot of those.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I have to pick them out because I accept some, but I get
Yeah.
a lot of them from these bimbo girls, and
Yeah.
I
Same
didn't know
thing.
all those, but I get.
Well, hey, you better warn Melissa because that a lot of women are chasing you.
I think it's just some kind of a click on. I don't know. I get a lot. I get like one or two of those a day, but I get some that are clearly legitimate people that want to join. We have, of course, our Connecticut MAGA Republicans group that we started last year on Facebook, which is, I'm all, it's funny because I'd get maybe 2 or 3 people that asked to join the group a week. Lately,
Yeah.
I've been getting 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah.
Asking to join the group, so it's really increasing.
All right, but what do you do with that? I mean, just because I mean, this is an echo chamber. Okay, like-minded people sharing with each other, which is needed. Okay,
Yep.
but you got to get to the next step.
Well,
we got to get outside of the echo chamber.
I think we need to organize. Here's what we need to do. We need to organize a group of about 5 or 6 dedicated people in every to do 2 things. One, start attending RTC meetings and Board of Education meetings, and 2, organize door-to-door campaigns. What we would need to do to support them would be to print out pamphlets, little 3-fold pamphlets that contain the exact points, the most important points that are needed to get people off their asses, essentially, and involved, and to make them understand the severity of the situation.
Well, it's not just the severity. So that's part one. There are at least 2 other parts here. Going after the Democrats, you talk about the severity of the situation, but you want to also focus on the fact that there's a certain group of people creating these problems, commonly known as Democrats. But the third thing you need to remember is we are having, what are they called? Midterm elections. So there are campaigns that need to be supported. And these people you're talking about are the ones that should be knocking on doors for these candidates.
That's correct. I think it's more than just an election thing. I know we have an election coming up. I get that. But as time is going on, and I started this movement almost 2 years ago now, under the idea of let's flip Connecticut red, and I get that. But I've always said, and I still think, there's got to be a few hundred thousand registered Democrats in this state right now that are looking. I'm not talking about the leaders. I'm talking about the leaders. They're looking at what the Democratic Party has become over the last 5 years or so and saying to themselves, what in the world is going on with my party? What do I do? And those are the people we need to appeal to. That's a huge block if we're going to win. And it's really about the Democratic Party mantra has become so draconian, so Marxist, and so anti-American that it's almost not even to call it any color other than black. It's kind of crazy. So really, is it really about red and blue anymore? Isn't it about? It's more about red, white, and blue versus whatever this abysmal, disease that's penetrating our country, the DSA and all that. It's the red, white, and blue now against that, and that's the image that I think needs to come out more and more. Both, especially when you consider that both of the parties in Connecticut here are pretty corrupted. Democratic Party, the Republicans are almost worse because the Democrats at least say, "Hey, we're coming after you, man." Republicans are pretending that they're on our side when they're not, and that's almost worse. And so, isn't it really about red? Isn't it become more about red, white, and blue versus, evil, which has manifested itself in the Democratic Party?
It's. I'm afraid that if this gets complicated, we're focusing on politics here.
That's what we do.
The Democrat Party is one thing. They are being eaten alive by the Democrat Socialists of America.
The black.
And some of them are waking up and realizing
black,
it.
Like racist. I mean, black, like dark.
Yeah. Well,
So maybe we should start to paint this thing a little bit more like, hey, that's why we have red, white, and blue on our news. Like, it's the red, white, and blue, isn't it? Isn't that what got us going with the American Revolution? The red, white, free trios for the red, white, and blue. I mean, we're the red, white, and blue. I mean, red, white, and blue is under assault by some other color. I'm not sure what color that would be, but it's not a color of evil, a color of whips and slavery and treating women like objects. Women have no rights in their culture, you know.
You're talking about the Democrat Socialists?
I'm talking about more like Islam and that influence they're having.
Well, you see, this is the problem.
But look at the leaders of the DSA: Al Sayed, Mondami. This is a red-green wave that we're facing.
Well, that wouldn't be quite correct, because when people look at the composition of the Democrat Socialists of America, what you find are young, rich, white, liberal Arab kids. They are the body, the muscle, if you will, of the DSA. These are, and as has been pointed out, these are people who were sold a bill of goods when it came to going to college. So these are your ethnic study majors, your communication majors.
They have a right to be upset, quite frankly.
Okay, well,
but look at the people they're following. Al Sayed in Michigan, Mondami. We got a lot of Muslims.
Okay, well, and they're being upset. They haven't realized that they have to get their act together. Instead, they're looking for their version of an easy way out, and they don't. It's all right. For example, their proposals all pretty much have to do with the same idea: massive government spending. Okay. And just to make the point,
government takeover. I mean,
well, not just a takeover. What the government they would create is still not very clear, but it can't be good. And the fact that these people hate the Constitution should tell you all you need to know. All right. The problem is the spending. If you take all their proposals, it has been shown that you're looking at. I mean, it's a crazy number. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. But if you take all the proposals in terms of housing and education and childcare and healthcare and all the stuff, you're looking at $200 trillion in government spending in order for them to get all this free stuff.
Yeah, and guess what? Where does that $200 trillion come from?
They don't understand it. They don't get it. Right. You know, here we are sweating babies over just having passed the 40 trillion mark, and they're talking about spending 200 trillion. No, I mean, it's just
the thing. Their proposal for spending $200 trillion, people think that it's just a misguided proposal, but it's not. The proposal is designed to collapse the system. It's designed to destroy the system so they can come in and take over. It's not like they're just economically miscalculating. They know it's not attainable. They're doing it to destroy it.
All right. So there are two different things here. When you take over, there are certain things you still have to do after you take over in order to, quote, destroy the system. So what are we talking about? Are you talking about destroying the trucking industry? There's no supply chains? What are you talking about?
You're talking about
destroying farms so people can't grow food? What are you talking about?
Economic collapse in a government that can't pay its bills.
All right. Again, these are I need something a little more concrete and specific. All right. You're going to ruin the bank.
You drain the rich to the point where they don't invest, where they move away, where you destroy like New York City, you destroy the wealth of the country, like taxing it to death, where the incentive to produce goes away when you're just not going to get anything out of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. So that's what you were saying. That's where you think they would focus then.
Yeah, that's one of their focuses. And then, of course, there's the cultural warfare. Keep making boys think that they're girls. Keep, separating. Have more and more moms killing their babies. So that basic trust between a mom and a child slowly starts to break down.
Well, I still can't help but feel that, yes, these are the things they're talking about, but it's being amplified by the liberal media.
Right, which is also a major concern because there's still many, many millions of people in this country that rely on legacy media for their information. It's sad but true, especially people our age and older, my age and older.
Okay. So here we go again. What is the largest block of voters in America?
White males, probably still.
Unaffiliated.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, unaffiliated, greatly outnumber Democrats and Republicans.
The only question I have about elections for this fall is, will they rig it? Will they be able to rig it enough to stave off the red wave, which I think there is a red wave going on in this country, and for real, in terms of people wanting to fix the evils of the country. And I think a lot of people feel like we do. And
Okay,
I think
so right now, I don't see any evidence of anything that's going to stop the fraud. Okay, I'm talking about the machines.
That's right. And that's why we're all going to be very sad on November 7th.
Mm-hmm. Meantime, though, I do have to share one small hopeful story. You remember Tina Peters?
I remember her a little bit, yes.
Okay, you know she was in jail.
Yes, I know about, she's an election fraud specialist, right?
That's right.
That's right. Her and Joe
so she, as they say, has the receipts on how the state officials of Colorado defrauded voters in the 2020 election. She has the original ballot images.
Mm-hmm.
They told her to destroy them. She refused. She got framed and put in jail.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell. And she still has them. So I don't know where this, I mean, at some point there's got to be a lawsuit that brings this forth, but you still have judges, playing all these games that make it hard to get to the point where you can really present the evidence. I just don't understand. But in the meantime, here comes the announcement. People are going, what? Tina has thrown herself back into the fire.
Really?
She just got hired.
Hired as what?
As an assistant registrar.
Which town?
Shasta County in California.
Oh, wow.
Would you like to know who her boss is?
No, tell me. Yes, tell me. I mean,
his name is Clint Curtis. There is the funny thing about Sonoma County is that he fills both the roles as the town clerk and the registrar, which I wouldn't call it a conflict of interest, but kind of a problem. Maybe that's why he needs an assistant. In any event, Mr. Curtis has unilaterally kicked Governor Newsom in the nuts.
Good.
Because he has sequestered certain questionable ballots in a room in the Shasta County building. And
what is this going to ultimately do, though? Is this ultimately going to result in fair elections in California, though?
All right. In my mind, there has to be a sequence of events here, right? One, you prove the fraud. Second, you show where the fraud came from. And then third, you get rid of the thing that enabled the fraud in the first place. Hello, paper ballots. All right.
Yeah, without the governor, without the state government on your side,
Yeah. So, I think this is going to be another case of where the FBI gets called in, much like in Fulton County in Georgia,
mm-hmm.
and where even DNI will get called in. This will be interesting because now we've got this other guy, Clayton. Clayton's a weird duck. He was in some other surprising capacity. I can't remember what it was, but when I heard about this, I said, what? This is not making any sense, and it does not sound like good news. So you had Bill Pulte as the acting director for national intelligence, and when he was there, he was clearing the place out of those deep staters in the national intelligence offices. So he was making some headway. And so
was.
Sorry?
The operative being was.
Yes, was.
Yeah.
So, it took a while, but the Senate finally confirmed this Clayton guy. But we should do a little research on this. What's the status of Bill Pulte now that this Clayton guy is supposedly running the place? Mm-hmm. If Bill Pulte is kept around as some kind of an assistant, this will get very interesting. But in the meantime, so I just, God, what is this? I don't know. Are we being teased? Are we being jerked around here? I don't know where I found it, but I saw the video of Clint Curtis standing in front of the room where he was storing the ballots with big signs saying "Keep out," and he was explaining the situation. And this was separate from the announcement that he was hiring Tina Peters to work with him. So it's called Something's Going On in Shasta County, California. My goodness.
All right. Well, with that, I got to go. But okay. I got another trivia question for you. Ready?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So I am a person.
Yes.
First one. I am a man of the 20th century. That narrows it down.
Yeah, we need a little more information, please.
Mel Blanc. Nope, not Mel Blanc. Number 2. My last name can mean maker or creator. My last name can mean maker or creator.
Maker or creator.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know this last name meant that. It's very interesting.
No.
Third one. Falling water is one of my greatest achievements. I'm a man of the 20th century. My last name can mean maker or creator. Falling water is one of my greatest achievements. Got a guess?
Right, from Lloyd Wright.
You got it.
Yeah.
You ahead of me on that one. I didn't have that one. The other two were Simon and Garfunkel said so long to me. And I created what is called the Prairie Style.
Yeah, Frank
I
Lloyd
got that one. That's good. You're on top of that. Okay, so I'm going to sign off for tonight.
Okay.
Let's do this again tomorrow night. I'll be ready at 9 o'clock, sharp and ready to go.
Show enough.
All right. So for Common Sense News Entertainment, once again,